Morning, everyone. It's great to have you all here. We're going to be starting at the top of the hour, so just give us a couple of minutes and then we'll get going. Just tell us when you want us to start. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. It's really exciting for us to be here today. I'm joined by two fantastic guests today. I've got Tubbs sitting here on my left and Warwick sitting on my right. It's going to be a fantastic morning. We actually have cake today. We had a little bit of a joke earlier in the office, and they really came through. They brought us a velvet sponge cake, which is pretty cool. Fruit, veggies. And apparently the pineapple is the most sugar, so it's all for Tubbs. So thanks everyone for coming through. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about some latest research that Autodesk has been publishing. Let's have a look at the topics that we're going to be covering. So there will be 8 topics that we picked from the list. These topics we believe are actually very pertinent to the South African industry. As a team, we're going to be bouncing around about this and just having a look at how this is applied in a South African context and where we're going to go from there. I'm going to hand over to Warwick to do some housekeeping, and then we can take it from there.
Morning, everyone. As Simon said, thank you again for joining us. It is Friday, and we appreciate your attendance and participation. Some housekeeping rules. What you see is not what's here. We've got a fantastic team behind the scenes, busy managing all the technical issues and technical support. We are running a Q&A, and there is a webinar chat. There will be some polls in the session. So this is not a sit down, listen to us, we're talking to you. This is more of a discussion, and we want, participation from you guys. We want feedback. If we don't finish the session and we stick on slide 3, that's okay. The idea is that we start getting responsive feedback from you as the viewers. So that's housekeeping rules. There is no audio, so all your questions, just pop it into the Q&A. Tash sitting in the background, she's going to pop it up on the second screen we have off camera. And I'll hand over to Simon to carry on.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the first question is exactly what is design and make? This is a survey that Autodesk has been doing for it's probably about the last 5 years. The survey has been going around and looking at challenges that the industry faces. And the methodology that they've taken is the surveys across the globe. So there's over 10,000 responses. But what I did is we decided as a team, let's focus more on what's pertinent to our region. So we cut this down just to EMEA. So that's Middle East, emerging Africa as the focus area. There were 2,471 respondents to this. We still very small. We fall into that Middle East criteria, but there were some really good feedback that we got there. And you can see the split. Most of this was AEC. It was 30%, 30%, 30% between the different disciplines. We're going to be talking only about AECO because I think that's where our main focus is. If you want to see more material, you can go and have a read the rest of it and see the other 2 segments. Tubbs, what did you think was the most important thing that came out of this?
Yeah, as you can see on the screen, there was a study done last year, obviously, around AI and the impact of AI in the industry, right? And as it came in, naturally, everyone was confident around the idea of AI and how it would impact the business. But since then, a year later, interestingly enough, there was a 12-point drop in industry leaders who say the organization is well prepared to overcome unforeseen obstacles, right? And it just speaks back to the idea that people thought they were prepared, but when they actually look internally in the organization, they were very unprepared throughout all the sectors of the companies.
And I think also just on that, maybe Warwick, what we also saw was this huge instability in the international markets. War in Ukraine, that's been going on. We've got Iran versus Israel. We've got so many issues happening.
So we'll touch on that a little bit later. But just to the point, so we've got business owners tackling change management's one of the most difficult things for guys to overcome. Plus, we've got all of these uncertainties. Iran, we've got Israel, we've got Ukraine, we've got Russia, we've got, political tensions locally. We've got construction mafias. So these guys are literally inundated with irritations, and the guys are hesitant to make choices because yes, there is time invested, yes, there's money invested, and are the guys making the right choice? Are they investing the right time?
Yeah.
And we'll touch on it later, but it's also, okay, so we hire these guys, we make these changes, we train up everybody, and what happens? We have a brain drain. Everyone gets on a plane, and then Australia, then Canada, then the UK.
Exactly.
So, you know, today's discussion is just going through the stats and just understanding, you know, what is industry talking about? How is industry feeling? And some of the polls and questions will be, you know, posed to you, the viewers, and what are your thoughts? And hopefully we can start going through these ideas and seeing where we can actually start working with the guys and start putting their minds at ease.
And what was really nice for me, just as a South African, was to see that we no longer the only people facing uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because we had massive political uncertainty last year. We had all the changes happening in our country. Now the rest of the world is feeling the same pain. So for me, it's fantastic.
Well, we spoke yesterday. You said the US region, the world's ending.
Yeah,
for them. The world is ended. There's not coming back. It's just doom and gloom. So, I'm excited for today's session. And well, let's carry on.
Yeah, let's get on to it.
So maybe just before you carry on.
Yeah.
But with all the uncertainty that happens with this project with these guys are running multinational projects, right? Clients all over the world and stuff. Right? And obviously the political uncertainty, et cetera, does impact their decision making. But the craziest one that I discovered, the idea of introducing AI or formal workflows stuff forces you to structure your business, right? Yes. And a lot of the outcome of it, you find that a lot of the data and the work that they're doing becomes scattered. Immediately they try to introduce a new idea. And that's quite interesting. And people need to deliver projects. They don't focus on let's structure first and then but anyway, we'll carry on.
We're not going to talk on it today, but we're going to talk next week on the 25th. And the topic that I'm going to be focusing on is, in a nutshell, communication. So you can have AI, you can have all these fancy tools. You guys aren't fundamentally communicating correctly, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I think that segues so nicely into the Autodesk message that they want us to deliver here today is around the platform and using the cloud and using the tools that are in the product suites to empower you to deliver and make sure that when you're building those structures, you're able to unify all the data and the connected workflows in one place.
Exactly.
So that with that fragmentation of information, we can pull that back in, make sure that it's running in one local, accommodated environment. Doesn't matter if it's Autodesk, it could be any other vendor, but if you're not focusing on that, you're not going to win in this industry. And we're seeing that across everything. So in the construction, it's the AEC cloud. In manufacturing, it's the Fusion cloud. And then the M&E, they have their own solutions that they're running there. And I think the main thing is if you don't have that structure, you're really going to struggle with the change that's coming in the future. 100%. Cool. So let's go on to the questions. I think the first question that we've got here, this one is for Tubbs. Would you like to take this one?
Yeah. Okay, so digital transformation efforts have an overwhelmingly positive impact. Right, it's a good thing to say, right? But I sort of thought about this a little bit, and I felt like our digital transformation in our industry is no longer a future strategy. It's right now how you deliver return of investment on your project, right? And there's some stats in the presentation. I'm not going to go through all the stats slide by slide. I won't kill you by PowerPoint, right? But as you can see, the idea here is once you're in a unified platform, you got your data structured, right? It should improve productivity, reduce your costs, improve customer satisfaction as well, right? But with that said, from the research done as well, 58% of respondents reported over 50% productivity increase the moment they implemented digital transformation.
I'm going to push that back on you. So you're the head of the technical team here. I mean, you've been in the industry for over a decade.
Yeah.
You've seen companies go from stone ages to, conquering galaxies. Have you personally seen in South Africa, because it's great, you're looking at stats from EMEA, but your personal experience, have you managed to see an ROI in the 50s?
Yeah.
The 60%?
Definitely, right. And it goes back to making the decision, right? It does take long to get to a point where you start seeing the return of investment, right? We've got big firms that decided to transform the companies, right? Train the people, improve their processes, and improve the technology, right? And they're able to churn out more projects. Their customers keep coming back. Their customers refer the workflows that they've implemented onto other projects as well. And unfortunately, sorry, but the thing in South Africa, a lot of people dabble in technology. Right? One of the biggest, I won't mention names, but one of the biggest firms that opens a whole lot of retail centers still run AutoCAD. Right? They're one of the biggest firms in the country. And the only problem, they're dabbling in technology. They're literally 25 years behind.
Sorry, so we have a question here. Sorry. Yeah. The slide at the top of the screen is very small. Can it be made bigger?
I think it's that little window.
So it's just the window. Let me move it there.
Yeah.
Heather, I hope that helps. I do apologize. Going back to that now, so I don't want to dabble on this too long, but I'm industry.
Yeah.
Should I wait for government to start gazetting policies? You know, that's the standard. You know, let's wait for government to implement and then we'll follow suit. Or, you know, is it advisable that private sector starts taking control of their own destinies and starts implementing this in their own organizations?
Remember, digital transformation impacts your business. That return on investment is on your business.
Yeah.
Waiting on government mandates won't benefit you as a business owner.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
And I think one thing that really, to me, is very important here is that production costs.
Yes.
Because everyone that when we started this journey 5-6 years ago, when we started talking about it, everyone said to us it's going to cost us too much.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing guys are showing I think it was 40% reduction in costs.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
If you're able to unlock that in your business by doing digital transformation, that is huge.
Yeah,
exactly. So I spoke to a guy, Projects Northwest Africa. I'm not going to mention names, but there was a cost associated with digital adoption, digital transformation on that project. Total project value came to about $40 million US.
Sure.
We said, if we can save you just 10%
of that,
that's a $4 million return. And I think the total investment was about $250,000 all in.
Nice.
So we literally are saying, here's $4 million, but I need an investment of $250,000 from you.
Yeah.
Who is saying no to that?
800% return on investment. It's fantastic.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like what you guys are saying, biggest blockers for this is cost.
Yeah.
But like what you mentioned, it's a good way to paint a picture for investors. Time to adapt. That's another big thing in the industry, and a skills gap as well, and talent, right? And these are the challenges that are big players in the companies are facing right now.
Yeah, and I think you'll see that later. That theme follows through quite a bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to add on the topic? Or should we move on to the next one?
If your team had 50% more capacity for tech tomorrow, where would you deploy it? That's a question I want to move.
If your team had 50%.
No, let's go to the audience.
Yeah.
Guys, like, there's no poll. Just please feel free just to add your comments in the Q&A section. But again, Tubbs, just please repeat the question.
So if your team had 50% more capacity from tech tomorrow, where would you deploy it?
We will get back to those questions now. Let's move over to sustainability, our next question. And as soon as we start getting some feedback, we can just stop and go through it.
Yeah, so it's, sustainability transitioning from pressure to profitability was a very interesting topic. Warwick, would you like to try and give a stab at this one?
Yes. And it's not talking to the slide. This is just talking from experiences, talking with clients. We had a fantastic event that we were at last night. And what is sustainable? And how can we show sustainability? One way we can look at it is, are we still using archaic tools that were being used 20 years ago? Yes or no? No.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're not sustainable.
Exactly.
What is industry pushing today? What are clients looking for? What are the next steps? We have the ISO 19650 standards, which have been introduced and locally accepted in South Africa. They're under the SAN, South African National Standards. Right? That's sustainable. We can now, with confidence, start going to our clients and saying, guys, ISO 19650, a small part of the BIM tree, ISO 19650 is a real thing. It is happening. And how can we start gearing your business towards being ISO compliant? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have the ISO certifications, but can we start aligning your business? Because in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a mandatory requirement because it sits within the ISO 9001. And if the guys aren't already gearing themselves up to that, 10 years later, when they wake up, it's going to be too late. You know?
And I'm just thinking back to a presentation we had a couple of years, maybe a year ago now, when Nathan York was talking about the construction that they had, and they had an anchor tenant from the US.
Yeah.
And their building was 3 times more expensive than the competitor's building, but because they had sustainability, because they had green energy efficiency, they had solar, they had water, they were able to get that anchor tenant into that building. This was in the Midrand in Waterfall.
Yeah, it's nice.
And that was one of the big online shipping companies from the US. And it was really interesting to hear that because their customer was saying, we need sustainability. And because they, as Nathan's company, had said, we will pilot and go ahead with sustainability on our projects, they were able to win that project. And I think this data really showed that, because one of the things that I picked up on this was that customers were saying our customers as the construction companies were being forced by their customers, the consumer of the product, to become more sustainable. So customers saying, I want a green energy efficient building, I want, you know, waste removal services or grey water usage in my building, whatever. And now that's flipped entirely. So if you look at that first slide on this, it was saying the influence of the customer has dropped radically across the region. In fact, it's only Italy where the influence has gone up. So what's happening now is construction companies are saying sustainability is key.
100%.
And that to me is really, really important. And what the next slide then talks about, I think, is really important as well, is that sustainability is now showing revenue.
Yes, exactly.
And and people are saying, hey, you know what, by being sustainable, I can draw more money.
5% is not a small number.
No, it's not. I mean, we were at Big Five yesterday, and there were guys showing fiberglass rebar. It was mind-blowing.
75% reduction in weight.
Nice.
3 times the tensile strength of standard reinforcement.
Nice, I saw that,
I mean, how's that?
Insane.
I mean, that's a game changer. Not only is it sustainable, but you actually building something that's stronger than what you got today.
But again, companies need to look at these things and say, that's something I'm going to adopt. That makes sense to me. Status quo, and I keep mentioning status quo, business as normal is killing industry.
Exactly.
You know, that's the problem. Off digitalization tools, still on sustainability though. I had a chat, I went to go play golf with one of the senior construction companies in South Africa, one of the directors. And their sustainable growth business model was super tenants. Build a structure, have a super tenant for 10 years, life's easy. They don't exist anymore. There are no super tenants anymore.
Exactly.
You know, they're very far and few between, and they hold power as the tenant over the owner. So why would companies stop pushing for that business model when it's been proven that it's not something that's sustainable anymore? And companies are changing. They're starting to say, okay, well, super tenants aren't our thing. We're going to push back. We're going to try something else. So they have got the mindset to start looking at their business processes and understanding where they're making and losing money. But when it comes to digitization, there's a clear block, and I don't know what it is. But the guys just don't seem to want to investigate these things.
I think, I might be going ahead, so in the next couple of slides, I don't know if you can go ahead today, because I will answer your question.
Let's skip to the next one. So I think this one is a no-brainer. I mean, I'll just take this topic quickly. You know, the thing for me is, sorry.
No, you can go.
Okay. The main thing for us is that AI is sustainable. I mean, AI is proving to be one of the major things that is driving some industry change and driving some things. But what was very interesting is that AI is falling off the wagon a little bit. Because people are saying AI is awesome, but how do we use it? How do we use AI to actually drive, you know, we spoke about it last night. How do we use AI to actually drive business insights and not just draw pretty pictures, or how do we use it to start making our business easier and more efficient? And it was quite interesting. Some of the things that they said, you know, that came out of this is 38% of people believe that AI could be used to make themselves more sustainable. And I agree with it. I think that You know, we're seeing that with Format, we're seeing it with Autodesk products. That's where the main drive around it is. Decreasing waste is huge. If we can use AI to do that, that's a great opportunity. And then more energy efficient, that's self-explanatory. And then increasing the share of renewable energy is used. I think that's a no-brainer. And we can see many companies are doing that already. We can see all of the technologies going in that route. So I think there's a lot of use for AI. And I think those are all being driven in the sustainability field.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, it's coming from industry as well, right? When sustainability talk started quite a lot of years ago, right? It impacted the design space quite a lot, architects specifically, engineers, etc. Engineers design, like mechanical engineers, electrical guys, etc. They think sustainability as they work, as they study architects as well. But the work to do that, right? It's not paid for most of the time, right? So design firms and architects won't spend a lot of time getting the correct output for clients to give them sustainability because it was not profitable for them, right? Give an example. When this whole talk started in South Africa, and there was a Green Building Council, we started introducing SANS 10400, lighting studies, etc. Till today, every single submission has a little Excel table, right, with a count of lights that you have, how much power you're using, paste it on a title block, send it to council. No one reads it as long as it looks like there's a calculation, then it gets submitted. So there's no real value to it, right? But looking at this slide as well, with the correct tools, right, that makes the work easier for the user, for the designer at the end of the day. Then we'll start seeing that 5% profitability for the designer. This topic for me is more relevant to the owner and the operator of the building because they will see the benefits of it when operating and running the building.
In our last presentation, we spoke about construction. And there's this massive push for digitization and making use of these fantastic tools from stage 1 to stage 5. So design, pre-design, construction, and then all of a sudden, as soon as we get into handover and give information over to the FMs, everything just gets lost. And I'm like, guys, the life cycle of a building is 100 years. The design, procurement, construction, everything may be 5 years. So we're investing all of this time into 5% of that life cycle, of that asset's life cycle.
Yes, exactly.
And we're forgetting about the 95%. And I think that's where the guys that are seeing the returns are understanding that their ROI sits in that 95%.
Exactly.
You know, we actually spoke about it last night at the event. You know, how can FMs and owners, building operators, start making, you know, actual use of information that's being collated through the design and construction stages.
I'll give you another example. This is like 2016, 2015, before AI chats and stuff, right? At one of those biggest banks, we were just assisting them in digitizing their workflows and processes and stuff. These guys, every month, would move around their business units. I'll say probably around 25,000 square meters of office space. Right? Every month, if there's a new business unit moving, they'll take the furniture and store it somewhere and buy new furniture. The guys were wasting billions and billions of rands, right? Just literally having trucks, storage space, etc., right? And just by introducing a digital workflow, they were able to actually see where their assets are sitting, right? Instead of wasting it all the time. Simple thing like furniture. Anyway.
We've got a poll, guys. I'm going to ask Tash to put a poll up. So if you can just walk us through that poll.
So I think, you know, I want to see what questions you guys have and what you think would influence you. So the 5 questions that we've got on the screen here, as a community, let's see what would be applicable in South Africa and what do you think would be the best uses where AI or sustainability could help your organization with those choices. So while we're waiting for the poll to go on, I just want to, you know, just looking at time, let's move on a little bit and we'll come back to the poll once people have answered it. But I think the main thing is that, you know, 96% of companies are taking actions towards sustainability. I think if you're not, you're dead in the water. Sustainability is going to change the world. We can see that across the region. What was hell of interesting in the data, if you just go to the next slide, was that all the other regions showed that AI adoption would improve their sustainability, except Middle East and Africa.
Wow.
So I don't know why that came out. I haven't had enough time to look into the data. But I think maybe what happened is the guys were very bullish about it in the beginning, and they've had to reel it back in because they just don't know how to use it properly. And I think, you know, like what Tabs maybe was talking about earlier, you were saying that, you know, doing those things that add value, but you don't get paid for.
Yeah.
And I think that is crucial why that is coming through quite nicely on that side.
And the timelines are tight, and the projects that are happening in the Middle East are quite big. They're huge.
That's
right? And those timelines are very tight.
I comment on that. When you're doing some projects, you're managing some projects in the Middle East.
Yeah.
They're on a different spectrum.
Exactly.
They operate completely different to the rest of the world.
Exactly. And the deliverables are insane. On a weekly basis, it changes everything. And there's no real time to really focus on, let's make this thing sustainable. But it's in the back of the mind of everybody. Everyone designs for sustainability. Yeah.
And I think it's that, where do you make money off it? I think that's the question that we should be answering. So let's go to the next topic. The next topic, Tubbs, if you don't mind picking this one up. The AI hype cycle, is it reality?
It's reality. That's actually very interesting. When I was looking at this, I rephrased it. I was like, basically, the AI honeymoon is over. Right? You know, the honeymoon phase you had with your partners, right? And now it's about execution and not excitement. Okay. And what we've found, obviously, in the stats, you guys will see, everyone was excited about AI. Right now, we need to start doing the work, right? And what's happening now, disruption fears are rising, and believe that AI may destabilize industries, as that belief is also climbing as well. People think they'll lose their job. They don't think that it will improve their workflows, right? And on the other side of it, AI, for some reason, still remains like a #1 future hiring priority. So people now are asking, so really it is popping up in our industries, but I came across a person in marketing, right? And when they hire their people, they ask them what AI stack or are they coming with? What AI knowledge do they have that can improve their workflows? Those days are coming as well for our industry, right? Because now we don't need to, we're not thinking about putting in a prompt in ChatGPT and getting an answer back, right? Right. And there's something quite interesting as well. Our relationship with machines from the days we started using dial-up internet and all that stuff, it was quite like 50-50. It depended on us as humans to give the machine input, right? And it was physical input on every machine. And then transitionally, as we started going into AI, if you think about it, that relationship we had with machines became conversational.
Yes.
But the machines couldn't understand exactly what we wanted and what we're doing. At this stage right now, when you talk to an AI language or a large language model, or there's another terminology I was looking at for machinery as well, right? We are confident enough that it will understand our input and give us the output, or even better than what we're looking for, right? So now we are at that space. Yes, we're excited, right? Honeymoon was great, everything. I don't know how long your honeymoon lasted. Some people 2 years, some people 2 weeks, right? For some reason, for this, it lasted a year, right? And then now everyone is seeing exactly where will this fit in my business? Where can it improve my business, etc.
What I'm hearing is AI will put people's jobs at risk, but not the way that they think. It's not going to put people out of work, but the guys who are not wanting to adopt and learn and use AI, they will be at risk themselves because they will be, you know, in the shadows of the guys that are using it.
If my title was senior programmer or programmer, I would be worried. I mean, there were stats out this week that Microsoft released that said that 30% of all their code is now written by AI.
Exactly.
So those types of roles, if you're not using AI to help you do your job, your role is going to be changed.
Exactly.
Guys, we've got a question, if I can just stop us quickly. From
sure.
Grant. So question is, Grant here from PRA. My question is, firstly, cost of Autodesk products currently as a small firm of 7 users with Revit and BIM Collab Pro, we're sitting at 400,000 Rand a year. Any reduction on cost from Autodesk to South African market to continue digital collaborative workflows? 2, standardization of BIM workflows such as ISO 19650. May companies, especially large consulting firms, these processes are known, Number 3, AI integration in Autodesk Revit processes is critical. Prompt engineering would be critical. Who will train the mass? So let me answer question 1. I think because costs.
That's your role.
Cost unfortunately is a sore topic. Grant, believe it or not, South Africa falls under emerging markets, and our pricing, Simon, 33% less than the world.
About 33% less.
33% less than the world. So yes, 400,000 rands, a lot of money. But if we look at your cost, let's set up a session. Let's sit down with you and understanding where you guys potentially losing opportunities to gain, additional income streams. Look at your return on investment. So the conversation needs to be like, I have to spend 400,000. I want to change it to, I've just made 3 million rand. I'm very happy to spend that 400,000. So cost, unfortunately, there's not much we can do. Prices are dictated from Autodesk, and the margins that are made are incredibly small. So if you want to, let us know. There is some feedback that Tasha's going to put at the end of the chat today with the QR code. If you are happy, let's set up a meeting. More than happy to come sit down with you and the team, and we can just break that apart just so we can start, ensuring that you and the team are all in line with potential returns on your current annual investment. And 2, standardization of BIM workflows such as ISO 19650. These companies, it's unknown. So it's relatively unknown, but luckily now the South African national standards are there. ISO is something that started in the UK and is slowly starting to make its way here. So we've got stages 1 through 5 available.
Well, in South Africa.
In South Africa, we've got 1 through 5. We have got tons and tons and tons of information and data on our websites and on our social media platforms. We talk about it often. So, Simon?
Yeah, I'm just reading the question again, and I think the question may be about how do you get return on investment
from ISO.
And I think there's a really good research being done on this in the UK, because they were the first guys to adopt it. I know their standard isn't called ISO 19650, but it's the same concept. PAS. And I think what we need to do is to look at, and like Warwick said, let's have a look at your business, understand what you're trying to achieve, and then we can help you to create an ROI.
100%.
Because we had this discussion yesterday as well, is not everything in ISO 19650 is applicable to everyone.
Exactly.
You need to pick the pieces that fit for your business and work in your environment, and then decide how you're going to implement them. And I think that's you can't, and there's an African saying, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. You've got to break it down into what's applicable to you and what will help you in your business. So I think that's maybe I'm just rephrasing the question, but I think that's where you're going to start seeing the return from those things.
And then I'll maybe look at the third question.
Yeah, I will answer this. Just to add on to that, our implementation that we do with all our clients in the AEC industry is based on ISO 19650. It is very important for people to understand how to structure the data. That's all aligned with ISO 19650.
Just to make sure that there's no accreditation that happens. The workflows and the processes that are set up are aligned with ISO.
Exactly. We have clients that ask us to help them with getting ready to be certified as ISO 19650, right? And as you know as well, I think the only ISO 19650 auditors in South Africa. But and then the third question, Autodesk is working on some AI assistant stuff on software. I'll just for everyone to you can go check out Autodesk Assistant. It's already live on ACC, right? Very helpful for QSS and for snagging as well. Autodesk Assistant will be built onto AutoCAD and also onto Revit eventually. There's no specific date that's announced where it will come on. And the biggest challenge for that, with AI or large language models, right? They need to come from a trusted source, right? And as you guys know, it takes a lot of computing power, right? So Autodesk, because of the type of clients that they deal with and we work with, like you guys, they won't put you onto a public platform where your data is sitting there. So to get that right, it takes a bit of time, but it is already live. You can check it on thing. It's Autodesk Assistant.
And I think if you really want to play around, I think Autodesk sort of lunchbox where they're playing with this is format.
Yes.
And if you really want to see where their vision is and what they're trying to do, format is the place to
Yeah, format. Yeah,
format. So format is the place to look, because that's where all the innovation is going. And yes, it may not be applicable to everyone, but you can at least see the direction that they're taking around it.
Can I I know we digressed a little bit. Just to go back on what we were talking about in South African context about the honeymoon phase being finished, right? South African firms, as you all know, are cautiously optimistic, right? But mostly stuck in proof of concept phase. Right? A lot of firms are like trying to incorporate AI in the workflows, seeing how it will impact their business, etc. And what was from my research, there's also, it's not really part of this, but I'm in the industry, I work with these guys a lot. And the biggest missed opportunities in South Africa is embedding AI in our everyday workflows. Stuff like clash detection, design automation, things that Grant is asking. Generative space planning. Generative space planning has been live on Revit, I think, for almost 10 years now. The generative design.
It's been there forever.
It's been there for so long, but we're not leveraging that stuff. And very interesting. I think, Simon, you like this. Few firms have proper AI readiness roadmaps or an AI governance structure. I don't think a lot of firms have that. And if you just strategize, look at it at a high level, put in a roadmap for it, it's a great way to start with this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, in my background, I worked a lot with the banks about 2 years ago, and AI was a huge issue for them. And they had to put in, not only is it frameworks around how do you use it, but it's all the ethics of it as well. So we're lucky in the construction sector, we don't have to worry about ethics. But well, we do, but we don't have not as much as selling insurance. Because imagine if you could chuck all your insurance, imagine suddenly you're talking to insurance bot. And that bot's making ideas, it's taking assumptions based on raw data.
Exactly.
So it's making a correct assessment, but there's no human factor to it. And that's something that AI really needs, and in the broad industry, if you go to any of the talks around AI, that's a big focus. It's around how do we humanize and make sure that, those, if I went to go get a bank loan today, I'm still speaking to a person.
Exactly.
And that person's making that decision. And it could be, we're in a good mood, they're in a good mood on a loan. And if you go full AI, none of that is going to make any influence in it. And you could be the next Elon Musk, you could be the next big guy. You just need that break.
Exactly.
And AI may not give you that break. So that's a really interesting thing.
That's scary.
That the banks are looking at. But anyway, over.
My question for this, what would be the one task you delegate to AI today if it worked flawlessly?
Guys, please.
One task.
What would be the one task you delegate to AI today if it worked?
Make me coffee. That's it. I just want the perfect coffee.
If I could delegate one task, there's anything. I would ask AI to review and recap the day I had yesterday. And understand all the conversations I had, all the phone calls I made, all the emails I've sent out and received, and just give me a synopsis of how the day went. Missed opportunities, things that were said that maybe shouldn't have been said, things that clients said that I didn't pick up on, and just give me a breakdown to say, hey, Warwick, you had 50 phone calls yesterday, clients were harping on about X and you never picked it up. Then it will give me an ability to now go back and say, actually, we had a discussion yesterday, I did miss this, but can we maybe bring it up again? So I think that would be my one. If I could go back and look at missed opportunities, because the days get hectic, the days get busy, and you do miss a lot of information.
Asking like a perfect cup of coffee. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. The next topic, I think, Warwick, if you don't mind picking this up, cost, tech, talents are the top concerns.
And there always will be, I think. Right now, the three biggest worries keeping companies up at night are, costs, cash flow, keeping up with technology like AI, and, finding and keeping the right people. And that's what we mentioned earlier at the start of the conversation. So I'm a business owner. I need to invest in all of these things. I need to train up these guys. I need to train up my staff. How do I retain them? when I cannot keep up with the opportunities and offers that the US, Canada, Australia, and everyone else is offering. You know, so it's about how, and this is a question, I don't know how to answer it, but how, as we as an industry, how are we going to start retaining talent? The brain drain is a real concern. I've been in industry all my life. And it's funny because you're working on a project 2 years later, you're like, hey, move on to the next project. Hopefully the team that I worked with, no, this guy's in Australia, this guy's in the Netherlands. The entire professional team that I've worked with throughout the 15 or 20 projects I've delivered, I think 3 or 4 are here. Everyone else is gone. You know, so
what makes that happen though?
You know, again, it comes back to people's mindset.
Okay.
So I'm living in South Africa, crime is a problem. I don't earn as much as I could. Blah, blah, blah. No one ever understands, and this is just personally my opinion. So you have standard of living and you have a quality of living. Our standards here in South Africa are extremely high, massively high. Our quality is not so much. But the moment these guys make the move abroad, their standards drop dramatically and their quality increases. So yes, they have less crime, they have access to green parks, they can walk their dog in the street, but you know, you are bombarded by rules of engagement and black and white red tape that the guys aren't used to dealing with, you know, working in Africa and South Africa. So if we could just have an industry that agrees that yes, we have got problems here, but you know, the opportunities available to us in Africa are so high, and the few that choose to stay are actually seeing those opportunities and becoming fruitful with them.
And I'm going to flip the question: is it really a problem?
Exactly.
Is it really a problem? Because I mean, last night we went to an event where there was 30 young people in that event. They knew technology, they knew the industry, they knew everything. They were keen on learning. So what if we lose 10%? So what if we lose 20%? We got 50 more people to replace them. 100%. And I think what companies need to say is, how do we fast track and make sure that our processes are solid? And if Warwick leaves tomorrow, I can put Tubbs in and Tubbs can pick up from where he's supposed to. And that's the things that we need to start looking at, trying to make sure that we do. So, okay, so we've got another question here, so we're going to park here.
Let me read this one. I'm really excited about all the amazing advancements in AI. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the best AI tools out there for engineering and architectural firms. Our office works primarily in the AEC and ACC environments, and we mainly use Revit, Civil 3D for our design projects. Which AI tools do you think would fit well with our current software? Also, do you offer any training on how to use AI effectively? Thanks. Tubbs?
Yeah. Okay, that's a very interesting question. But it's a good question to ask, because a lot of people look at AI as just a plug-in solution or a specific thing. Right. You need to look at what your workflows are and what you want to achieve. Right. So for example, currently what Autodesk have done, they've got an API that AI models can plug into to create different engines to perform specific tasks. Right. So currently there's no like specific AI workflow or an AI platform that plugs into your Autodesk software. I mentioned this, maybe Natasha can give me your details. I can show you some stuff that Autodesk is doing, right? But there are things that Autodesk is building, like Autodesk Assistant, that plugs into the software itself.
What about generative AI?
Right. Yeah. So once again, it's an API. A lot of people online are creating code to plug into Revit to perform tasks, but it's not formalized solutions yet. So we're not there yet where we can say, okay, there's an AI solution for Revit, there's what you can do for Civil 3D, but those days are around the corner. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, I'm going to put my data nerd hat on now.
Yeah.
I think there's a very big distinction between AI and machine learning.
Yes, exactly.
And I think a lot of people's just throwing everything into the AI bucket.
Yes.
There's a lot of machine learning that we can apply. And machine learning is just doing the same process over and over again and educating your version of the software to do that. So if you look at ACC, if you adding projects into it and you're starting to use insights. Insight isn't AI, it's ML.
It's ML, yes,
because machine learning on that is taking all of your projects and looking at what's happening in those projects and starting to predict what's going to happen next. And that to me is actually more impactful today than what the AI models are. And if you can just wrap your head around what machine learning technology is built into our products already, into the Autodesk products and other solutions out there, and start using that, you can achieve so much more than jumping into this uncertain AI world.
Well, we've got construction IQ within ACC that takes data that's been collated on a project. And the more data that gets fed into this machine, the more accurate the responses are. But it's able to now pick up and present risks to you. So a great example is we hired Tubbs as our architect, but there's constant issues with him on the 4 previous projects that we worked on. And in Construct IQ will be able to give that information through to me, giving me access to historical data that now I can say, I'm actually not appointing you. And if I do appoint you, these are things that we need to work on and mitigate, because these are the issues we've had in the past. So those are tools that exist within ACC.
So if you look at machine learning, like what Simon said, right? Look at Autodesk Forma, right? Within Revit, there's your analysis tools, right, that are built into Revit as well. Right, there's generative design, right? What that does, it gives you, for example, you might want to pull out like I don't know what industry you're in, but you might want to come up with the best optimized solution on your design. It will pop out like 1,000 different options and give you a best one. Right? There's also ACC stuff like what Warwick mentioned. Right? But the best thing to look at specifically for pre-design stage, jump onto Autodesk Forma so you can make decisions early on your design, and it links back directly into Revit and other software.
And then Russell also posed the question, is there a difference between machine learning, ML, and AI? I thought the terms were interchangeable.
Yeah, and sorry guys, my background is big data. So let me try and answer this, and then we can take it from there. So there is a very big distinct difference between machine learning and AI. So I'll give you an example of machine learning. Machine learning is where you analyze a large chunk of data and you teach your product or your software to respond to it. So I'll give you a good example of this. Vodacom uses ML in South Africa extensively. So who's a Vodacom? Uses Vodacom?
No.
MTN. Okay, so MTN also uses so MTN uses where they the advertising that you get in your in-app advertising and your messages or SMSs or your WhatsApp messages that they send you. That message that they're sending you is completely unique to you. It's completely unique to you. So what they do is they take your behavior, all of the data that you've done, how much data do you use, how many phone calls do you make, how many YouTube videos do you watch, how many anything that you do, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you do, and they tailor a solution specifically for you. Now I can't remember the exact number, and people can shoot me from this, but Michael, who's the head of the AI team at MTN, was telling me that business is a R1 billion business. Alone. Because what they're able to do is use machine learning to analyze all of your data and then tailor specific messages to an individual. So that's ML. So ML is where you're using the processing power, and ML has been around for thousands of years. I mean, ML is how credit card fraud is tracked, how they do risk assessment on credit loans, whatever they're doing. Whereas AI on the other side is where we're asking prompts of the software to say, these are the criteria. So a good example of this is like if I wanted to do a solar gain study, and I say, if I put this building in this space at this angle and at this, so you're giving it those parameters, those prompts, it is then working within those parameters and giving you an outcome. And that outcome is based on public accessible data, Whereas machine learning, you're using your own data.
Okay.
Nice.
And that's the main difference between the two. And I'm glad I can talk to you guys about it afterwards.
Nice,
but
nice.
there's a lot of value that you can
No.
get out of that.
Nice, nice.
Russell, I
100%.
hope we answered your question. Let's move on quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at time.
Yeah, we're like 10 minutes.
We've
to
got
go.
10 minutes. So if there are any questions, guys, please pop them in the chat so we can go through it. We do have 5-10 minutes left. Leaders,
I think this is yours, Warwick.
this is mine.
Yeah.
Leaders are cautious in the near term. And I think we've spoken about this extensively throughout the whole discussion today. But just want to move this here. I think there's a poll on this one as well. Let's go back. Apologies.
Yeah.
Here we are. So I'm going to put the poll out just in terms of time. So poll is, do we have any concerns about digital adoption? If so, what are they? Are they cost? Are they technology? And is it talent? I'll ask Tash to put it in the chat. But again, we have spoken about this. If we look here, the more uncertainty, less preparedness across EMEA. So let me just have a look here quickly. We can see that there has been a drop, and guys are getting nervous. And I think that's just global tensions. But again, if I can take it and I can simplify it the best way possible, if you go invest 10,000 Rand into S&P 500, if you take a zoomed in lens on it and you look at it daily, you're going to gain 10,000 Rand, you're going to lose 50,000 Rand. It's just complete chaos.
Yes, exactly.
But if you just take that step and you say, guys, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm investing in, and you just take a step back and you look at S&P, again, if you look at the S&P 500 over the last 50 years, there's only been upward trajectory. Yes, the macros, we have got our peaks and troughs. It is going to happen. We're going to have issues globally. There is going to be uncertainty. But if you had to zoom out and just look at it holistically, there is only one tradition, and that's up. And I think if guys have that approach, it will set a lot of people at ease.
And a lot of it is basically on the talent space, it's trust. We know now if you needed to hire an AI person in your firm, they're self-taught. What do they learn? What do they know? What are they connecting to? Where's your data going? Et cetera. So that needs to be structured as well. Like what I mentioned earlier as well. If you don't have a roadmap of where you want to go with your AI strategy, you will always feel unprepared.
And that's something we at Modena can work with our clients, with you. If there are questions, let us know. Let's unpack it together. Let's see where we can assist.
And I think the last thing on this is that welcome to Africa. Uncertainty is what we live in. 100%.
Exactly.
Are we prepared? We've lived this the last 20 years. We are so far better geared than the Nordics. Look at that Nordic number. It's crazy. I mean, that is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
But because they've had such a stable economy, they've never had
to worry.
Disruption. Because we live that every day. So I think when we look at these numbers just for Africa, we are well ahead of the trend.
But I mean, if we look at Africa and the business ideas and the actual solutions we managed to deliver, Sassol's a great example. Transnet's a great example. So yes, we do have inefficiencies. Yes, we do have lack, but that lack sparks innovation.
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know where the stats are, but I can almost assure you now that Africa and Africans are one of the most innovative people globally.
Exactly.
Because even with the lack that we experience on the daily, we still manage to come out on top. I mean, our architects, our designing firms are top notch, best in the world.
Exactly.
Issue is we get exploited because we are cheap labor compared to the global market. And that's just a great, what's the right word? It's a remarkable thing that we have as an exportable product to say that we are top in the world when it comes to automation, design, manufacturing, whatever the case is.
Absolutely. Let's move on. I mean, the next question is the one I think that everyone is very interested in, and I think we've spoken about a lot. It's around talent and the skills focus on AI. We do have a poll for this one. This is the questions around, what are the issues that you would think would drive your hiring and what is out there. But what's really interesting in the market is that we're seeing the shift towards, the new skills are really hard to find, but it's improved radically.
Okay.
So if you look at the numbers from last year, it was below 10%, and it's now pushing way up.
Pushing up, yeah.
So people are now starting to find them, but they're saying that the other flip of it is my company needs to invest more in skills. But let's have a look at the skills. I mean, the top 5 skills that came out, and this is the same questions that we've asked you guys, is number 1, since last year to this year, it's the same. It's AI.
Yeah.
Everyone is focused on AI. And just by the way, if you're using AI, please, for the love of God, don't put company-sensitive information in an open platform.
Yes, exactly.
Please don't. If you're using AI, make sure that it's within your firewall and you're not doing it, because as soon as you put something in there, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's public. Okay, so anyway, that's the one thing. It's interesting, digital design skills is dropping.
I see that.
And I think that may be a function of AI.
That's
because
interesting.
AI is starting to take.
Programs moved up to number 2, and again, that's influenced by AI.
Exactly. The ability to program and learn.
That's a big one. I think it might still rise as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so programming is interesting. Digital project management has stayed the same. Data analytics has dropped right off. And the knowledge of data and security has dropped right off. And I think
that's scary.
I think to me, data analytics it's a subset of AI again.
Yeah, it is.
Because you no longer need to understand data. I can chuck it into Gemini or ChatGPT, a whole bunch of data, and I can come back with an answer.
100%.
And that's why the number 5 is swapped around to say no, understand the safety and security of what you're putting into that space.
And I can tell you now, that's going to start climbing.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen I'm sure you guys have seen the horror stories that are coming out of, the guys from one of the big car manufacturers put all their public data into AI to test it. That's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Someone went and tested AI models with all of the latest car data. And it's now there, you can't remove it. It's out. So data security is going to become a huge influence.
Exactly.
And it may not just be on, I know from other industries, it's a huge question. Every day when we do projects now, we're getting asked about SOC, we're getting asked about POPIA and all these things. It's just part of life. We need to understand it. Should we move on to the next one?
Let's do that.
Tubbs, are you happy to take this last question?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so investment remains strong, but reflects uncertainty. I think we've covered this a lot.
Yeah, we have. Right?
I mean,
yeah, it is throughout. Currently, I don't see really any investments happening in the AI space in our construction industry and built environment. Purely like what you just mentioned now. One of the type of clients we work with, you hire a junior from one of the varsities, they come in and they put in your banking vaults floor plans to open ChatGPT and stuff, right? So we're not there yet. We need to have a secure environment, and our focus mainly is on building the trust with our leaders and business owners around AI and stuff, right? I've seen now within our market in South Africa, when it comes to digital transformation, investment is, from my experience, is actually rising, right? Clients and owners are starting to see the benefit of having their data structured. Back to the ISO 19650. ISO 19650, like we all know, the UK government mandated that because it benefited them as an owner of their asset. Now we're seeing big construction firms, owners, facility managers mandating that on their projects, right? Now, because of that drive, there's an investment that's rising. Everyone is starting to think that I need the correct tools, I need my people trained up, right? And I need the right processes within my business, right? And it's not entirely, there's a question earlier on the cost of software, right? A lot of people look at software as this is going to change my business. But if you just put tech in and you don't focus on your people and processes,
100%.
you're going to miss it completely. And I've seen like one of the top firms that we work with, they went the full spectrum. They looked at the technology, they spent time on training up and benchmarking their firm with global companies. This is how they ended up one of the top firms globally as well. And then they changed their processes and invested in changing those processes. And they're seeing a lot of time saving in their projects, right?
You know, for guys that have been working with Modena, and for those that haven't, I mean, it's on our website, it's everywhere. Our 3 focuses here internally are people, process, and technology. in that order. You know, we don't put technology and process above people. Because if we focus on the people, we understand the people. That will give us insight into the process, and once we understand the process, we can then link technology that's suitable for their company. People are just looking at technology, and they're forgetting about process and people, and that's what things are breaking.
Right, and looking at this slide where it says fewer EMEA companies are considering entering new markets, right? That's sort of, it's a fact on our continent, right? A lot of guys in Africa I've seen are not confident to go into other markets and do other business. But like the example I'm making with this one company, they're able to do work in Middle East, into Africa, et cetera.
You know, the expansion, if you just think of South African companies, South Africa 5 years ago, it was a white space in Africa. And our guys invested heavily in Ghana, Nigeria, into East Africa, and we burned. Our customers burned. But that learning that we got there has now helped them grow. And we're seeing customers here in South Africa delivering projects in Europe. Why? Because our cost base is so much lower. So I think this trend of European companies not being able to invest or not wanting to enter the markets is actually very good for us.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's opening a space
Opening up an opportunity for
us to invest. And if they're not willing to invest, our base is so much lower.
Exactly.
We can invest and we can take into those.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, just in closing, the question that we want to say is, are you in position of taking advantage of this data and AI? Because I think that's the main focus. And this report is available for you guys. You can download it off the Autodesk website, or you can fill in the form and we'll send it to you and read through it. Data being granular, accessible, interoperable, being able to make you use it, understand it, put it into your models, that is crucial. And making sure it's your data, not sharing it, putting it out on the cloud. It's got to be in your environment. That to me is very important. Let's just finish with some closing remarks because we're on time.
There are no more questions here as well, so we can close off.
So my closing remarks, let's imagine a world, and this is where we're going, right? Where all different sectors in the built environment, civil engineers, mechanical, architects, etc., just share data in one unified platform, right? And we can just grab it and do anything with it. This is where we're going as an industry, where we're not just software, not just focusing on a specific software design work, but we're producing data to deliver projects here.
My side, focus on people. People turn the cogs in your business daily. Once we have the people, you know, and we understand the people in our businesses, and we can start understanding processing technology. I think the biggest thing now is people are just focusing so much on technology, and they're not understanding why they're not winning. Focus on the people first, and then follow the steps. There's a recipe to bake the cake. Follow the recipe.
And for me, it's, you know, AI is there's a lot of hype. Don't get on the hype train. Find where it makes a bit of sense to you.
100%.
What can it add value to you? It's cool. I mean, I write contracts with AI. It's great. Fantastic. I don't need a lawyer anymore. It's simple. But think about what applies applicable to your business. And then use it in that space. And then understand your data so that when you're doing machine learning or AI on that data, you understand what you're trying to get. Let's drive those outcomes. And that to me is the best part. It's not think about, you know, I can use AI for this. It's say, hold on, what outcome do I want? How am I going to achieve that outcome? And then work backwards from there. And that's how we're going to win in this space. But thank you everyone for joining us today. It's really interesting. And next year, I hope we have more African participants in the survey. And we'll definitely push Autodesk to get more data in. But thank you. If you've got any questions, please reach out to us. And looking forward to seeing you guys in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Simon. And Mike, thanks for the cake.